Some of you may have gotten these. This is how they're stealing the elections. My co-writer, Bob Fitrakis, is the Green Party candidate for Congress from my district in Central Ohio. And we are doing a lot. Those of you who are concerned about it can talk to me. We need an election system where the votes actually get counted and where people are actually allowed to vote. What a concept. And just since I have Jill here, I want to tell my favorite guy in American history is Eugene V. Debs. Eugene V. Debs was the Socialist Party candidate for president in 1900, 1904, 1908, 1912, and 1920. He took the year off in 1916 and stayed home in Terre Haute, Indiana, and ran for Congress. And I always love to tell this. He voted in Terre Haute. His wife voted. All his relatives voted. All his friends in Terre Haute. He was a wonderful guy. Everybody loved Eugene V. Debs. You know how many votes were counted for Eugene V. Debs for Congress in Terre Haute in 1916? Zero. So we have a problem, Houston. We have a problem with our voting system. And I guarantee you Jill Stein will get way more actual votes than will be counted. We have to get rid of electronic voting machines. We have to have universal paper ballots, automatic voter registration. And those of you who are interested, I'll give you a free copy of our new e-book, Will the GOP Steal America's 2012 Election? Now, I bring that up because we're doing a lot of radio interviews and people ask me, well, aren't you working for Obama? I say, no, I'm working for Jill Stein. I want a president. Eugene Debs also said it's better to vote for what you want and not get it than vote for you don't want and get it. This is what I want. This is what we want. This is the only avowed anti-nuclear candidate from my home state of Massachusetts, and longtime anti-nuclear activist, Jill Stein. Welcome her, please, and we're honored to have you here.
Thank you so very much, Harvey. Thank you to all of the Coalition Against Nukes. And yes, we do need a nuclear-free world, free of nuclear power and free of nuclear weapons, and we need it now. And thanks so much to all of you for having the courage and the spine and the vision to stand up for what we want, for what we need, for what we deserve, and for what is within our reach. I've just come from a week packed with the Chicago's Teachers Union strike and the teachers who are standing up. The poverty tour of Cornell West and Tavis Smiley and all the low-income people in poverty who are standing up. The Occupy Wall Street anniversary and all the occupiers who are standing up. And college campuses across the Midwest where young people are standing up to end student debt, to bail out the students and not the bankers. And that's just in the last week. And, you know, this campaign has been the opposite of what I expected. I've been running for office almost non-stop as part of building the opposition over the last decade and thought that this race would be the most difficult, bitter, vicious of all. But in fact, it's been exactly the opposite. It's as if there has been a political earthquake that's happened under our feet that has not yet been recognized. So I want to really bring the good news to you, how strong this movement is out there, that there is a rebellion in full swing, and the anti-nuclear, nuclear-free movement is a key part of that rebellion. I want to thank you so much for having the courage and the dedication to be able to stand up and say what it is that we need and that we need nothing less. That you are not just kowtowing to the powers that be and asking for, oh, just a little bit. You're really asking for a nuclear-free world with the abolition of nuclear weapons. None of this demonizing of Iran. If you want to stop Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons, we need a nuclear-free Middle East entirely, as well as a nuclear-free world. And likewise on nuclear power, I think to be standing up and saying that we need to close down. It's not just stop building new nuclear plants, but to actually close down the ones that we have, starting with the 23 Fukushima-like nuclear power plants that are disasters waiting to happen. And the good news is that this quest for a safe world, a healthy world, an economy that can actually work and not be burdened by, the devastation of more nuclear plant blow-ups. All of this, it's a win-win for all of us to move to clean, renewable energy and conservation. That's where we get the cheapest energy, 1 to 3 cents per kilowatt hour, instead of this 25 to 30 cents with nuclear, which is the most expensive, dirty, and unsustainable and dangerous form of energy that there is. And we're saying no more. I think it's remarkable that public opinion is as mobilized as it is now in the wake of Fukushima against nuclear weapons. Depending on the poll, you'll get different results, but largely in the wake of Fukushima, we've mostly seen real opposition grow in many countries around the world. And, I think it's especially remarkable because the messages we're still hearing over and over again are pro-nuclear, are from the nuclear power industry. And we have not had the political leadership, with very few exceptions, we've not had the political leadership to stand up and say that is wrong and that is false. Yet in spite of that, the public hangs in there and in many countries strongly favors nuclear abolition now. So as we begin to to break the sound barrier and to change the message, I think there's no doubt that we can bring the broader public along. Given the fact that 1 out of every 3 Americans now lives within 50 miles of a nuclear power plant, we have a very powerful message about how to create safer and more sustainable communities, as well as more safe, reliable, and cheaper energy, and to create far more jobs, because for every dollar that is spent on nuclear or fossil fuel energy, we can create 3 times as many jobs in the area of clean, renewable energy and conservation. When given a choice, the public over and over again will choose the right thing. The problem is the powers that be, the political elite, supported by the economic elite, like the weapons industry and the nuclear power and the fossil fuel industry, they're always framing it as a choice between jobs and a safe and sustainable environment. That's no choice at all. We can't have either without the other. We need jobs with a sustainable and healthy environment. That's the only economy that can go forward. Tomorrow I'm going to talk about the Green New Deal and what the real alternative is for creating jobs, for putting an end to nuclear energy and nuclear weapons, for putting an end to wars for oil and making them obsolete, by moving to a green economy and green energy as an emergency measure to meet both of these crises, both the climate crisis as well as the crisis in jobs and unemployment. We deserve a solution to both of those crises right now that is within our reach, and it is really the only solution on the horizon. So there is a very good plan to make this happen for less than the cost of the President's first stimulus package, which was an enormous amount. It did have some energy, some green energy in it, but it had an awful lot of tax breaks, and tax breaks unfortunately don't create jobs. The key to both the Democratic and Republican economic recovery plans is essentially the deregulation of energy, including nuclear and fossil fuel energy, as well as the deregulation of Wall Street, as if we didn't have enough of that, as well as tax breaks for the so-called job creators. You know, there are very few differences. There are some, but they won't be enough difference to save your life between the Democrats and the Republicans, which is why it's so important for us to be standing up now for a nuclear-free future and the kind of future we deserve. One last point, which is that in the many countries right now where there is a surge of public opinion into the 80s and 90 percentile opposition against new nuclear power and supporting the shutdown of nuclear plants, the one country that has firmly committed to phasing out its nuclear power plants is the one country where there is a strong opposition party in the form of the Green Party. As Frederick Douglass said famously, power concedes nothing. Without a demand, it never has and it never will. We have to bring that demand into the realm of electoral politics. Otherwise, all the work that we do out in the street, out in front of the nuclear power plants, out in front of the nuclear weapons facilities, all of that work will be overwhelmed by the repression emanating from the voting booth. Now, it's true, the voting booth is not a pure application of democracy by any means. It is a rigged system, in some places more rigged than others. But as we know from being out there and fighting the fight on the streets, that too is a steeply tilted playing field. When the ground you stand on can be declared sites of special national security and you can be thrown into jail and declared a felon and locked up for 10 years simply for being at a site that they declare sacrosanct and where protests are basically off limit. You don't even have to know that in order to be convicted of a felony. And to be facing militarized police forces with helicopters swirling overhead. It reminds us that our democracy is imperiled in the same way that the safety and health of our future is imperiled. But the silver lining in this dark cloud is that these movements for democracy, for peace, for social and economic justice, for workers' rights, to stop the foreclosure crisis, to bail out the students and not the Wall Street banks, to put an end to these expanding free trade agreements, which the president continues to negotiate, that send our jobs overseas and undermine wages here at home. There is a remarkable, breathtaking convergence that is taking place right now as people recognize that we are a whole society. There are many pieces to it, and in order to have the future that we need, it must be peaceful, it must be just, it must be democratic, it must be green and sustainable, and it must be nuclear free. Thank you for doing the work to lead us forward. Thank you so much.